I'll tell you a story. I went to the beach over Banzmana with my grandchildren, and they told me they want to build a mikveh. They want to build a mikveh. And building a mikveh means digging very, very deep, very deep. So everybody was really ready to dig deep, but I was the only one digging, actually. And I took this really seriously. For an hour straight, I was digging. We had this tremendous, how do you call a hole? What's the word called? Ditch, yeah, like gator. It was really deep. Anyway, I found at a certain point I was digging that we hit water. Water actually was coming up. It was very deep. And if you just go actually for 1 second to where we were up to before, which was Perek Chaf, Pasuk, I think it's Daled, Pasuk Hey, was Mayim Amukim Eitz B'Leiv Ish. Let's start with this Pasuk actually, because that's what sparked this all. Perek Chaf, Pasuk Hey. Mayim Amukim Eitz B'Leiv Ish. Right? So on that, the Gra says like this. Do you have that? It's on page Reish Lamed Zayin, Reish Lamed Vav. Perek Chaf, Pasuk Hey. Ko. Yeah? So, Eitzi Das, says the Gra. Right? Umayim Amukim, it's deep water. That's what we're going to see in a second, the Mala. Well, Amak B'Leiv, and this Eitz is deep in your heart by somebody who's an Ish or an Isha, means someone Choshev. But you can't get it out. You can't be masig it, right? So how do you get it? We have deep in our heart Das, Eitz, which is called Das, Eitz, which means knowing what to do and knowing what choices to make. So it says the Gra like this: Ish Tfuna Yidalena. The person who has Tfuna, he's dolet, he draws it up. Shu Maven Davar Mitok Davar, because they have Bina Yeseira. Hu Yesegena. Shiyavan Zeh Mitok Za'ad Shiyada. He has more Bina and more Bina and more Bina until they know. Now, he brings here, it doesn't too often bring in Mishle, Perish, a mashal in a mashal. But he brings a mashal over here. Someone in a very deep pit. He couldn't get the water out. It was so deep. Ish Navan, a very smart person, kasher chevel b'chevel, b'chevel b'dali, ad yidla. So what happened? These people were like really, really thirsty, and there was some really very sweet water, but it was very deep down. So they got one string and another string and another string and another string, and eventually they tied a bucket to the last string and they lowered it down, and that's where they got the water. So the Gra says that that's a mashal for understanding something, right? And not just understanding something, but understanding das and etza, which is the highest level of understanding, which really means knowing what to do. And in Elul, that's so important to know what to do, because we all want to know what to do, how we can have a better year. So how do you get to this? So the Gra brings this mashal. It's like tying one string to the next string. So too, a person who understands one thing, and davar mitok davar. Davar mitok davar means I understand something, and from that thing I understand something else, and from that thing I understand something else, until I got to the actual understanding that I'm trying to get to. And that's my mamukim eitz b'leiv ish, yistvuna yidalena. That you keep working at trying to understand something, and then you see things a little differently, and you get deeper into that. You see things differently that until you finally got to the complete understanding. And that's just like tying one string to the next string to the next string until you got this water out. So that's what the Gra says. It's a deep idea. And actually, when I was digging this pit and I got to the water, I thought and I had this little child shovel, so it's like this. Every scoop of earth that I take out, I'm getting more water. And it kind of reminded me of this pasuk. Rabbi Zvi Auerbach told me actually, his father was Rabbi Al-Yashiv. And Rabbi Yashiv used to go to the beach. When he went to the beach, he brought Mishle with the Gra, and he would work on one pasuk. He would read it and think about it. He would walk into the water like this, think about the pasuk, and would sit there for like 5 minutes and come back and get more pasuk. And that's how he went to the beach. But I wasn't doing that. But I was thinking about this pasuk. Like the more that I dig, the more water that I'm getting out of here. And that's mamash mayim amukim, right? So how does that work exactly? And the way I understand is like this, and we'll speak about that more today, is that when you you come to a certain level of understanding every day. You have more and more clarity, and then you rethink the way you understand today, and you get even more clarity. The goal is to keep rethinking what's going on, and eventually get to really, really clarity, and that's the water. That's the Eitz B'Levi Ish, right? Because as Rav Moshe Shapiro once told me, I asked him a question. He said, Levi das Ma'as Nafsho, meaning you know the answer to that question. It's in your heart. You just have to pull it out. But how do you get it out? So you have to everyone has the potential for a certain level of clarity, like complete clarity. And how do you get there? You just have to reevaluate and reevaluate and reevaluate and reevaluate things until you got to that clarity. And that's the Mayamukha B'Levi. That's really coming to us like a very clear self-understanding. That's Mayamukha Eitz B'Levi. And the Bina is to think about it and to see like another aspect. I'm trying to think of a good mashal. It's a mashal to the mashal to the mashal, right? What's a good mashal? I guess, look, somebody told me today his son wants to become an airplane pilot. Airplane pilot was very interesting, I thought. I'm not even in the Israeli Air Force, just to fly airplanes. But let's say you really don't know what you want to do with your life. So you sit down one day and think about it, and you come up with some ideas, and then you take those ideas and you think about it again. You have more ideas and more ideas and more ideas. Or as I once heard, I heard this from Mr. What's his name, from Omaha? The prophet of Omaha, you know what I'm talking about? Warren Buffett. You heard Warren Buffett?
Oh, yeah.
Warren Buffett. He's called the prophet he's the last prophet alive. He's not even Jewish. He has prophecy in stocks, what? Warren Buffett. Anyway, so Warren Buffett was once flying with his pilot, interesting enough, and he told him, why don't you do other things with your life and fly me around? He's like, how do I know what I should do? He said, pick 25 things in your life that you think are really important, and then eliminate 20 of them. And those 5 things, those are things you should focus on, and the other 20 things are distractions. Right? So this is something really important, because everybody has their special contributions they can make to the world, but just we get so flooded with so many things that we're doing and this, and it's from the Yeseira, because when you're focused on just a couple of, or even one important thing, right? Somebody just sent me a clip that they did, Chaim Gross, he lives in the neighborhood, about Sarah Schneer. They used to throw rocks at Sarah Schneer. Did you know this? When she was first starting, they would throw rocks at her, men, of course. And she picked up the rocks and she said, these are going to be the Even Apina in my institution, and Kachaya, And she went to the Chavetz Chaim, was very, very Mishabech, and she went to the Ger Rebbe, I think, and he was quiet. She understood. She go ahead with it. But no. So how do you come to the clarity what you should really be doing with your life? And you come to you spend time with these 25 things, and you think, so which ones do I eliminate? And that's really this process. You think about it, and you think about it, and you think about it. And each time you think about it, you see it a little differently. He told me that once, Rav Yisrael Belsky told me. He said, before you make any decision, go to sleep. And then look at it the next day. He said, you'll see it very differently. Because always sees things differently. The second time, he called Linus Lila, go to sleep. Okay. Today, everything has to be really fast. So, but that's all from the Yeseira. Okay. So that's what I understood. Every shovel was like a little more water. Every time you're digging deeper and trying to understand deeper, you're coming up with more water, and the water is the clarity. Okay. So that's one facet over here. But
was it like enough like it looked like a miracle?
It was like, you know what happened? They just walked away. I'm sitting here digging for an hour, and they just walked away to get ice cream or something. And then finally come back for an hour, and I said, now we have to fill. We dug it, now we have to fill it up with water. But they low bali. And the bucket we had was like this. So it just took too long. But I thought it was worth it for the whole experience just to come to this clarity. Because I felt like every shovel, more water was coming out. And I really felt it was like, when you take the time to really think about something and think about it well, then I'll give you another good example. I think I said that before. Rav Chaim Volozhin had this amazing idea. He's going to start, there weren't yeshivas at the time, he's going to start a yeshiva, there's going to be hundreds of Bachrim, and it's going to be amazing. So he went to the Gra, he came in, he said, it's a great idea, yeshiva, hundreds of Bachrim. And the Gra was quiet. He knew that he wasn't happy about it. So after about 3 to 6 months, he came back. He said, I have this idea. We're going to make a shiva, 100 Bachrim. And the Gra said, amazing idea. Go ahead. So what happened before? He said, you were too excited. So what happened? He thought about it and he worked it out. He said, these are good things to do. These are bad things to do. Maybe take this type of Bachrim, that type of Bachrim. This is how we should organize it. He was more thought out about it. So then the Gra said, that's very good. When he initially thought the idea was a good idea, but he was being pushed by the Yeseira. Because the Gra says, whenever you're too excited, it's Yeseira. He came in really excited. The Vilna Gaon knew there was Yeseira. When he thought about it well, and really worked it through, then that was the time to go ahead. Okay, so that's my Mamukam Eitz. Eitz is how to do something in a way that you'll really be successful. That's what Eitz is. And you go to somebody, you go to Rav, and he gives you an Eitz or a Rebbitzin, and they give an Eitz how to do something, you say, wow, that's really incredible. Or somebody told me an incredible story. Forget who told me this. It might have been me knocking, but it might not be. Might be both. So someone told me about Rav Yisrael Eli Weintraub. He was an American-born gadol, and so he asked him a question. This person, and another 3 months, he met him at a wedding, and this Rav had a very hard time seeing. It was very bad, and he just said, "Yeah, I've been thinking about this question for 3 months, and this is what you should do." So he had met this person once, but after 3 months of thought, he said it was unbelievable, and he was just straight. It was like he was sure he was going to meet him the next day, but it had been in his mind to help him. Okay, so that's my mamukim. The more that we think, and the most important thing we have to think about is what? Does anybody know? What's the most important thing we have to think about? What? Our life, right? And that's El. We're supposed to be thinking about how to make next year better than it was this year. Even though I'm sure this was a good year, but next year could be even better. We're all hoping. So let's now look at Yud Ches Al, because we have some good suggestions here. Perek Yud Ches. It says like this: L'taiva yavakesh nifrad, b'kol toshia yisgala. It's a famous pasuk in Mishle. Taiva yavakesh nifrad. A person who is running after his desires or her desires, he's going to become split from everyone else because everyone's desires are different. But b'kol toshia yisgala. So let's see what that means here. Klomer, says the Quran. Take if kasher adam nifrad min hatera, who wrote of achar hataiva. Mavakasho. As soon as you stop living a life of Torah, so taiva comes in and fills its place. Right. Okay. Ki hatera mishaberes is a taiva. The best antidote to taiva is Torah. That's what the Gemara says here. Ukshu nifrad min hatera. And therefore, the more you separate from Torah, the more you're going to desire other things. But kol toshia yisgale perish shizgale kolono b'kol makom. K'mos kasuk bar shenikra bar malach pantri. Right? It means that he's a fresser. He's just eating all the time. Right? If you're always chasing taiva. But amar b'kol toshia k'mos kasuk sham shegoram shem ra lo u'lerabel mishpachto. So you're going to cause a bad name for yourself. It's like really intense revelation of his shortcomings. Okay, so that's the first thing. Taiva, and we're going to see all three things we're going to mention here are things that take you away from Das. The ultimate thing that takes you away from Torah is taiva, and the das we're looking for is the das of Torah. So the first thing is beware of taiva, because taiva takes you from them. Now, when this shir used to be in this house, one time we made, I don't know, Mrs. Weinberg may remembers, we made these little plaques. I found one today. I called the antivirus plaque, and there's 6 things. And and two of them are taiva and chemda. Those taiva is physical desires, and chemda is non-physical desires like money, honor, and that pushes away a person to pursue physical things and pushes away from das and understanding. So that's it. And these 6 things are all like they're pushes. A person who feels pushed towards something, taiva or chemda, is being pushed away from das. So that's the first thing. Taiva shivakish nifkat. Okay. The second thing is, and these are all we'll see in Pasuk Dal, they're all things pushing us away from Eitzah and Das. Lo yachbetz k'tzil b'tfuna kim b'skaus libo. The k'tzil doesn't want tfuna, right? We said tfuna, we just said in Paragraph, is Mayim Amukim. Tfuna is understanding. He doesn't want to understand things better. He just wants to reveal what he knows, really what he doesn't know, right? Kim b'skaus libo, which is completely empty of anything, says the Gra. Lo yachbetz k'tzil b'tfuna kim b'skaus libo. Hak'tzil. So the k'tzil is the person who is foolish. Kishabahu lebeis medrash lo bo lumatar. He's not coming to hear what other people have to say. He wants everybody to know how wise he is, and really he's really stupid, but he wants to publicize that to everybody, right? And that's the k'tzil. That is the midah of somebody who is looking just to publicize his own greatness, right? Which is the next two Yetzaras here. The Gra calls them gay and gaon, interesting enough. Pushes to put others down and pushes to dominate others, right? A person who's always looking to show that he's better than other people, that's the second 2 sets of Yetzaras. And the last one we'll see here, it's the third pasuk here, pasuk Gimel, Bo Rasha Bo Gambos, V'im Kolan Cherfa. When the Rasha comes, also disgrace comes. V'im Kolan Cherfa, says the Gra. Kishabah Rasha L'beis Medrash, Eino Bo L'shmoa Mishatah De Shiva Za'achach. He's really not interested in learning the Rasha. He just wants to find people who makes mistakes so he can tell them how stupid they are. That's all he's really coming for. He's not interested at all in learning anything. As soon as he finds somebody who made a mistake, even the smallest mistake, so he'll disgrace him. So you can be sure if the Rasha comes to base medrash, he's coming with his full ammunition of disgracing other people and putting them down, and onos devarim and all the other things that come with a Rasha. So you have 3 midas over here, which are actually the 3. The Gra doesn't say this, but I'm assuming that's what he's meaning. These 3 types of Yeseira: the Yeseira to run after taiva, the Yeseira to show people how great you are. That's gay and gon and taiva and chemda, and then the Yeseira to hurt people and put them down, that's called Ra and Mirma to Rasha. Okay, so these 3 Yetzaras are constantly at our side, and we have to try our best to avoid them. So now, here's the clinch over here, very similar to the pasuk we saw before. Mayim amukim divrei piish, anachal novea kor chachma. So the pasuk we saw before in Paragraph was Mayim amukim eitz belevish. Right? Mayim amukim eitz belevish. Okay. And this is Mayim amukim divrei piish. So a person's speech, if a person is an ish or an isha, and they really worked on understanding, then what they have to say is Mayim amukim, to be filled with das. It's like a nachal novea makor chachma. It's like a nachal, like a stream coming out from the source of wisdom. So it says the Gra like this. So Ish represents a sar, it's an important person. Well, Lomid Lishma, that's a person who's really trying to understand Torah Lishma. Divrei Piv Mayim Amukim. And what comes out of their mouth is really Mayim Amukim. It's really worth listening to this person, no matter who they are. Nachal Novea Makor Chachma. Hu Nachal Asher Novea Tamid. It's, the difference between when we got to our Nof, we were looking at our apartment, and there was a river there, like it was a beautiful view, like this river. And then We moved in, it was gone. It's like, but down the river was like a picture or something. No, it's just when it rains, there's a river. So that's called kazav because it ends. But a nachal is something where the water is always coming up. It's always bringing forth more and more water. And that's like somebody who really understands Torah Lishma. So they're also like a nachal novea. Giant. There's also like a nachal novea. They'll always have wise things to say on any occasion. Okay. And that's Gimel Dargim of Chachma, Bina, and Das, Shezochalem. The person who's really, who has Mayim Amukim, they're going to be Zoche to this level where they always have Das. And that's what he says, Mayim Amukim is so Das, Beis Amukim, Amuk Miyabsenu. Where is that from? Comes from Kalas, right? We said that before, I think. Chachma is just the let's say a pasuk in the Torah, that's Chachma. But that was said by Hashem. So how do you understand what it means? Bina is when you start breaking it down and you have your own understanding of it. And then Das is when you put it all together to know how to act. So that's why the Gra is saying about Das, it's Amuk Amuk. It's Amuk because you have the Chachma. It's Amuk because you broke it down with the Bina. Okay. I'm going to skip a few lines here to where he says, okay, it's only actually one line. Vein shlosha dvarim she'amar b'mishnah. Kol alomei Torah lishma, megan lo razei Torah. There's three things you get. Shu b'sod mayim mukim. They're like the depths of Torah. V'nasik hamayim miskaber. Hu makor chachma. U'kanar she'enu pasuk hu nachal novea. So he'll have these three attributes. He'll have the makor of chachma. He'll be a mayim novea. It'll be sprouting out. And he'll come to das from that. Okay. So now, how do you get to that though? So here's really the clincher. Babi snua, he's or she is discreet, but aruch rach, and they're patient. Umocha albona, they don't get upset if someone says something that could potentially upset them. An interesting experience that I have to share with you. So Booksham, Nicole's doing unbelievable. We have a large base medrash, and it's full of avreichim, like unbelievable. I'm so happy. And together with this base restaurant, I got an office, right? And so they put a closet in the office, and they told me, like, okay, so half the shelves are yours. Great, half the shelves. So yesterday I put, like, I don't know, 200 svarim on the shelves. And this morning I come to the base manager, I'm like, they're all on like a table. Like somebody decided to take them off, and he put his stuff there, you know. And I had written a little note. From what I understand, they have. So someone wrote back, well, you're really stupid and it's a complete mistake and go jump in a lake. So I was thinking like, so what should I do? I was thinking, what I should do? I'll just take all his stuff and put it on the table and put my stuff back in. And then I thought, that doesn't seem so wise to me. That doesn't sound like, that sounds like tit for tat. And I don't think that's coming from any of the like Ra and Mirma. Probably it's coming from Ra and Mirma, like he did this to me, so I'm going to do that to him. Maybe Guy also like, how can you do that to me? Kamda, maybe. But Das really means thinking things through. Okay, I thought, so I wrote him a little note. I said, it may be right. Maybe I made a mistake. I'm going to relook at the contract, go speak to a Rav about it. We'll see what happens tomorrow. And I didn't take I put all the stuff back in. I just put my stuff on the table in the office. And we'll see tomorrow what's going to be. But I was happy. I was exclusive this year because I thought, how can I give a shir today and take all the stuff and put it on the table? So, Baruch Hashem, thank you for this opportunity. And that's the thing. That story is like kind of funny, but I know it's kind of. I also said like I have a really hard time with Israelis sometimes because they think differently than Americans. Yeah, that's what I noticed. But if we think things through, who told me that once for Scheinberg? Scheinberg said you can defeat the Yeseira in 1 second. Just stop and think about it. Like it's not what's gonna. If I would have done that, tomorrow, I'm like afraid to even think where the Sram. They were like all being Genezer or something. So because he has to do more. He has to show that more than me. So a person thinks about it and says, look, it's an assignment. First of all, it has nothing to do with that person. That person was only Shleich from Hashem. This is a Nisoyan. You know the story about the computer. I said it so many times, right? The guy, the coastal, he took my computer and threw it on the ground, And Baruch Hashem, I was giving a share about not getting upset with people, so I had the peace of mind, to think it's a Nisoyan. Okay, this guy is the Shliach. Okay, so I gave him a lot of brachas, especially for Shalom Bayis, because he really needs it. And that was it. It's finished. So if we can't, the more we recognize that something's a sign, but that's already das. See that the initial reaction we're going to have if somebody does something to us like that, or they say something nasty, even if it's not so nasty, it's like only a little bit nasty. The initial reaction is, that I have to do something back to them, but that's just coming from here. It's either coming from raw, you want to hurt them, or from gaiva, you want to, show them they're better than you, or maybe taiva and chemda. And this is what the Gemara says. That's why these three, if you want to come to das, you need these three midas, which are what? He says, snua, va'arich ruach, mochalbon. You have to be discreet and patient and mochal on your covenant. So I think, what does that have to do with understanding better? Maybe that's good for midos, but what does that have to understand me? So he's going to explain now. He's going to explain. Right. Okay. So he says, and because that's megadol u'maromim al kol ma'asim, because that elevates a person. A person who acts like that, he becomes an elevated person, and that's like how you acquire das, by becoming more elevated. So a hepach mashkav zemal hainu u'snua u'hepach lo yachvetz ksil. The ksil always wants to tell people how great he is. The snua person is always pulling back and saying, "No, I want to hear what you have to say." Ki'im biskal sleep. Okay. Avahueng u'snua. The second person, Arv, the patient person, is the hepech of Im Kol and Cherfa. The Rush who's going around and insulting everybody. No, he's patient and doesn't get upset. Shemachar of Tekev. Ahu Arv. Somebody says something to him, he's not going to say back. U'mochla bono hepech boagam boz. Right? Avalhu lo dai she'enu mavazi. He's not just going to not insult the person. El she'mochla al bono. He'll forgive the person as well. Right? Uneged mashkasav kolto shiaskal iskala klon rabim avhum megadlo moroso al kol masim. Instead of showing off his stupidity to everybody, he's showing that's a really great person. If you see a person like that who doesn't get upset, right? That's a really great sign. Now I was lucky; I was giving a shir about not getting upset, so I had no choice. Otherwise, I feel like a hypocrite. But there was a very chashur rav there. He wrote 30 svarim on the Zohar, like Shulchan Aruch HaZohar. His name was Rav Abish. And he was watching this whole thing. He said, I want a bracha also, not just this guy. A bracha also. I felt good I was giving the tzaddik a bracha. Yeah? But because that's the greatest thing a person could do, the most honorable, the most elevated act you could do, is not get upset with somebody. That's really, because it says, Ezo Gibra Kol B'Shvitzo, right? A person might feel very tempted to give that person a piece of their mind, not too much because maybe there won't be anything left. But instead, you're just quiet. That's something really, really great. That's what I'm saying. And the clincher here is like this. The clincher here is that in order for a person to get chachma, wisdom, and das is knowing what to do. What are those 5 or 4 or 3 or 2 or 1 thing that I should be doing with my life? So in order to get that clarity, you have to be humble, you have to be patient, and you have to be, what's the third thing? And not insulting. Which word do you use?
I wrote down not get upset.
Not
get upset.
Not get upset. It's this word, one word for that. Patient, humble, not get upset. Not get upset is good. But what does that have to do with wisdom? The answer is because in order to acquire wisdom, right, das, eitzah, right, the eitzah has to sit with you, right, and the chachma will only sit with you if it has a good place, right? If it feels comfortable with you, if it feels like it belongs there, right? And the way to do that really is to be patient, to be humble, and not to get upset. And then the chachma says, "Yeah, this is the place where I want to be." This is like a elevated person. Yeah, it's an elevated person, and this is the place where I really want to be, and therefore the Chokhmah will reside with you, and you will live your life like in a much better way because you'll have much more clarity about what you should be doing with your life, right? On the other hand, if you are Ra Mir Matai Vachemda Gegon, or he calls Russia Seal, and what was the third one? And Taiva. If you have all those midas, the Chachma just runs away. It doesn't want to be with you because it doesn't sit with such a person. As we said, Ish or Isha, somebody who is a refined person, a developed person, a what's the right word? Probably in Yiddish is a good word. Yeah. But somebody who the Chachma wants to reside with. That's where the Chachma stays. And that's really what the Gra is explaining from the Mishnah. Right? In order to have this attribute of being able to tap into your heart, which is all there, like Rav Moshe Ber said, it's all there in your heart. All this Chachma is really there. It's just, and that was what I discovered, right, by digging at the beach. You just have to dig really deep and you'll get to it. Yeah? And how do you get to it? Right? You get to it by working on these three midas, right? By being humble, by being patient, and not getting upset, right? So there you go. If you want to be really have a good year. Now, the more you can figure out like what went wrong in Tashri Vav, Tehei, right? And what you could do better in Tashri Vav. So when Hashem is coming to give out good years, he'll say, yeah, give a good year, especially if people come to the Mishle year, for sure, that's like almost guaranteed. But the more that you really think about this, number one, and the more you work on these midas of being patient and not getting upset and not insulting other people, right? Then you will get more chachma, and that will aid you to try to have more clarity in your life. And the more clarity you have, the more you'll know what's the right thing to do is. Yeah? And that's the best thing. When you know what to do, then you're in a really, really good place. Right? When a person is really confused what they should do with themselves. I was speaking to a bocher over in his mind, and this bocher has no idea what to do with themselves. And it's sad because a person can do so much, they can accomplish so much in this world. They can bring so much cover to Hashem. They can have such an amazing life, right? And Hashem gives each person the wisdom to be able to know what they should be doing with themselves. But you have to tap into it, right? And you really tap into it by pulling it out, like we said, the strings, and that's the Bina, tying one thing to the other. And you come to that Bina really through these midas. So Hashem should help us. It's not so easy sometimes. It says Eretz Yisrael is nikta b'yisurim. So I think, be careful how I say that, but how would I say that the best way? I think here people are very tense because of the war. Like, we're always in a situation of war, and therefore, when you talk to people, they're kind of like in war mode all the time, 24/7 war mode. It's been like 500 days already or something. More. Simchas Torah, and then it's almost next Simchas Torah, right? Next Simchas Torah will be over 700 days, and it's only not so far away. And like I know it's like in Shul, people are saying Tehillim, it's been like 600 straight days of Tehillim, It's like when's it going to end already? And they're talking about going back into Gaza and taking over Gaza again and to start from the beginning, the whole story, right? So we're living in a very tense society, and it's very easy for people to get upset. And the really wise person will understand all of these things and also understand everyone has their own issues, everyone has what they're dealing with. And to understand that, a person, just because a person gets really upset with you, it doesn't mean they're necessarily upset with you. It could be they're just dealing with their own issues, which are very, very tough. So the more we can actually do what the Gemara says here, then we're in a really good place. And what does it says? The Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, it says, Hamavra al midaisav marvian al kol pshoyev. Right? So that means if someone does something to you which upsets you, and you're mavir on it, Mavra al midaisav, your midas want to tell you to do something, Just say, forget about it. Hashem says, you know what? You had 27,000 Averas B'mezid last year. He just takes them and like chucks them in the garbage. It says, Amar Midosa, they're just gone. So it's like really, really worthwhile thing to do in Elul. We should always offer to do it. It's Amen.